Gender balancing interest in STEAM at Campbell Hall. The STEAM problem. And an achievement gap exists that affects students from different genders and racial, ethnic, and socioeconomic backgrounds. Vestiges of the eugenics movement may be responsible for at least part of this gap, as manifested in lower teacher expectations and differential selection for programs such as GATE. Limited access to the resources needed to create dynamic and engaging STEAM programs in lower SES schools is also partly responsible for this gap. Brains are not very gender-specific, according to the latest information from neuroscientists. The gender gap in achievement has been linked more to how kids are treated and encouraged to play and develop than it is to their brain's abilities to succeed. Elliott, 2010. Boys and girls differ in many ways, but the majority of those are not based on neural structures, brain activity, or neural chemistry. The gender gap in achievement is environmentally based and varies by culture and ethnicity. Research has shown that girls are exposed to more text at an early age and develop verbally, typically before boys. Boys are encouraged to be more manipulative and hands-on in their approach to learning, while girls are encouraged to be more verbal. Adults need to attempt to be gender neutral in how they approach learning and action with kids. It is important to encourage activity and verbal exercises equally in boys and girls. Elliott, 2010. Gender and STEAM at Campbell Hall. How does gender affect the number of STEAM-related and AP courses a student takes at my school? How does gender influence grades? How do these factors influence declared majors in college? While the rich tapestry of America grows ever more colorful, my school continues to work hard to ensure that its student body reflects that resplendent diversity. While data from other STEAM classes at Campbell Hall shows more balance between the genders, data collected by our diversity coordinator shows a significant gap between boys and girls enrolling in AP Physics, a trend that has persisted over several years. Last year, girls accounted for only 20% of the total course enrollment, despite the fact that grade levels are balanced in terms of total numbers of each gender. Despite the apparent disparity in interest, boys and girls tend to perform equally well in upper-level science courses at our school, though the survey results indicate that girls find science classes more challenging overall. With the exception of 12th grade, where students have much more freedom in their science class choice, girls also report being less comfortable asking questions in class than boys. Regardless of race or ethnicity, boys have been shown to spend more time playing video games than girls, and the amount of time spent playing video games correlates negatively with overall academic performance, while the amount of internet use is a positive predictor of academic success. Jackson, 2008. Data is needed for our specific student population in these two areas to assess why boys and girls tend to do equally well in STEAM classes when Jackson suggests that boys shouldn't fare as well. In looking objectively at my school and pondering methods for STEAM education for girls there, I recall an informal lunch meeting held last fall that was well attended by teachers in several disciplines. The conversation was productive, and as a result, the first ever engineering elective will be offered this fall. Taught by one of our physics teachers, the class immediately filled with 40-some students in two separate sections. Preliminary data suggests that both genders will be equally represented among the students, but 1 year is an insufficient data set to establish any sort of pattern of improvement. The underlying factor throughout all the literature was targeting student interest in order to motivate them to achieve and continue in STEM-related fields. Students of both genders should be engaged in fun science activities from an early age, and there is no significant biological and genetic difference in gender that should be creating an achievement gap. Elliott, 2010. Early interest and engagement in STEM-related topics is the key to the future motivation to pursuing STEM careers. Heilbronner, 2009. Sadler, 2012. Intervening to increase interest from girls. One intervention is to engage students as early as possible in the scientific, inquiry-based, manipulative activities that allow them to connect with concepts kinesthetically. Throughout the literature, there exists a need to have a teacher that is willing to commit the time to developing engaging lessons that target all modalities of learning, as well as allow kids opportunities to make connections to their own personal interests. Teachers should encourage students to take risks by providing ungraded assignments and projects that will allow them to make mistakes without consequence. Heilbronner, 2009. The literature all pointed to the same conclusion, that by the time the girls enter high school, there's a much smaller percentage of them continuing to enroll in STEM courses, and even fewer pursuing college majors in STEM fields. Intervention for my students' needs has been greatly informed by the recommendations and findings in this literature review. We have a strong elementary science program, but the 7th grade has more than 50 students entering from other area schools. This is an important time for targeting girls and boys with engaging lessons that allow students to identify STEAM education as fun and meaningful in their own lives. By nurturing an already close mentor-mentee relationship with a 7th grade science teacher, I can expect her to establish she's a new teacher, a student-centered classroom where she's the facilitator and the students truly take ownership over information and the projects. In all required 7th and 8th grade science classes and science electives, students will take an interest survey on the first day, asking why they chose the course and what they hope to get out of the course. Students will also be asked about their own personal interests so that opportunities might get created to bring their interests into the curriculum. The survey itself should be an intervention that students will understand as they read that one of the goals is to increase interest from females in STEAM pathways. Part of the takeaway from them will be that the science program is dynamic and responsive, willing to adjust to best meet the need or an array of interest on the part of the student. Further, the junior high teacher should encourage students to realize that taking chances is the foundation of science, and it is important to be able to identify sources of error and disprove hypotheses. This has been done effectively at the elementary level for years and can be improved at the junior high level. During our regularly scheduled department meetings, time will be requested to meet with the just the junior high teachers to check in regard to progress in these areas and to plan a collaborative science project with the tech, math, and art teachers in order to allow students to see the connections between the disciplines. We will also discuss incorporating universal design for learning teaching methods that include model talk, the use of realia, manipulatives, and peer collaboration. Lastly, we also need to spend time creating project-based learning opportunities that will get at students' interest levels and allow them to apply concepts in a larger context. Ample data exists to suggest these steps should result in improvement over the short term, with girls enrolling in STEAM courses, particularly AP Physics, in higher numbers as they move through high school. By working closely with our diversity coordinator, who is also pursuing her doctorate in a similar area, I will collect data on STEAM enrollment, choice of college major, and intended area of study. Ultimately, we intend to develop an alumni survey aimed at gathering as much information as possible about the various aspects of a student's overall experience with science and STEAM at Campbell Hall. This will be embedded in our school website, and the many students who return each year during their school breaks will be strongly encouraged to share their experiences. Students have an inherent curiosity about STEAM-related topics from an early age, regardless of their learning styles or abilities. Teachers cannot control the type of learner they receive in their classroom and must adapt to appropriately provide engaging lessons geared toward each of the learners in the classroom. The struggling student should be able to access STEAM material in the classroom, the same STEAM material that the gifted student, where the gifted student feels challenged. Project-based learning units that utilize the 4 universal design for learning elements discussed in the Basham 2013 article would allow teachers to achieve success with all level of learners. These elements are clear goals, intentional planning for learner variability, flexible methods and materials, and timely progress monitoring. While PBL units require a fair amount of front-loading to create, it aligns well with the idea that instruction should be intentionally planned so that it is personally challenging for all learners. In planning for learner variability, teachers should take into account specific considerations such as individual and group strengths, weaknesses, abilities, understanding of background knowledge, and motivation for participating in the learning. Basham 2013.